Okay. Hi there. So, if you don't know me very well, you might not know this, but for the last 7 years or so, really my whole life, but definitely the last 7 years, I have been really wrestling with my relationship to money. For a good while, it was just completely tumultuous. Definitely one of the main themes of my life, trying to figure out how I felt about money, whether I wanted it, whether I didn't want it, feeling ashamed of the fact that I did want it, but definitely wanting it, but then feeling, bad about that, and just constantly in this deep emotional, internal, intellectual battle around money and what the hell it is and what it means to me and what it means to pursue it. So, by the way, I will zoom in on this thing here on the screen a little bit later so that you can see what the heck is going on here. But for now, I just want to explain some more stuff. That is a money map, by the way. Not the most well-organized one, but so I have spent the last 7 years really constantly wrestling with, in a battle with, money and my relationship to it and my sense of identity in relation to money, striving desperately at times to prove who I wanted to be through my ability to make money, prove that I wasn't what I was afraid of being by putting myself around the kind of people who had money and saw the world in a way that I thought I should see it. And in many ways I used money, or I saw money in such a way that I ran away from who I thought I was. I ran away from where I came from in the hopes of becoming accepted, in the hopes of becoming validated as intelligent or capable, worth something. And so in the last 2 years, thankfully, I've been approaching that whole problem in a different way. And rather than feeling at war with myself and with money, I have been able to transition into a much more curious and open and compassionate, even, approach with myself in general. And that change in overall attitude and that change in how I relate to myself has had a huge impact on how I view and handle and approach money. And it has led to me becoming curious about my relationship to money, rather than feeling as if my beliefs and feelings about money just weren't okay and I had to change them in order to succeed, which is what it was in the past. I started to get curious. I was like, you know what? Clearly I have these blocks. Clearly I have these things around money which aren't going away, and I'm just spending all of the energy that I have pushing back against them. But clearly they're there. What if I just got curious? And so that's what I've been doing. And so very explicitly now, for almost 2 years, I've just been getting deeply curious about my relationship to money. How do I actually feel about money? What do I think about money? What do I think about other people with money? What do I think about other people without money? Who is it that I want to be in relationship to money? How much money do I want, and how come? What is it about having that much money that I want? What life would it give me? What would it allow me to feel about myself? Deep and super nuanced, constantly asking these kind of questions about all sorts of things. How all that played out in my job, how it all played out in my relationship to my mentors, how it played out in my romantic relationships, how it's played out in my familial relationships, all of which those things are saturated by questions about money. They might not seem like it at first, but once you open that door, they really are. And so this has been a daily pursuit for me. At times it's gone slower, at other times I've gone faster and deeper, but almost a daily question, a daily thing that I reflect on. I go on multi-hour long walks regularly, taking my voice recorder and just reflecting on this stuff. Not anymore with the intention to change it, but just to understand and to hear what it is, because I spent a long time not hearing what it was, but just saying, I don't like what it seems like, and so I need it to change so that I can be successful, right? I never allowed it to be what it is. So I've been allowing it to be what it is, and I've been opening my own ears to myself, in a way. And that has been transformative. My relationships across the board are way better than ever. With my parents, they're better than ever. I had demonized certain people in my family for a long time because I felt like their influence on me was the reason why I felt I was struggling in life. I felt like they were the reason why I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. And you know what else? I thought that only through being successful could I be okay with who I am. And so, because I didn't feel okay with who I am, and I put that onto success, and then I felt like these people in my family were making it hard through their influence to be successful, I really was not happy with them, and I did not treat them well, to put it mildly. But that's improved by leaps and bounds. I feel more at peace in general with who I am, with what I'm capable of, with what I want to do with my life, what I like to do, who I want to be around and spend my time with. All of these things have become clearer, and I'm at peace with them. And even more than that, all of the things that I've been wanting to do for years are starting to happen without effort. I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss when I was 18 years old, in my first year of college. And from that moment on, I always, always, always wanted to work online. I always wanted to build my own business of some kind and, escape the rat race and live that life, the 4-hour work week life. And I've spent over 10 years wanting that. Learning things, that seemed like they should be learned to help out with that, but never just doing it, never just trying it. Even though I wanted to be independent and be whatever, an entrepreneur or some kind of, free agent type of person, I never was. I never allowed myself to be because I was so scared. My feelings around money pulled me in two directions. They wanted me to be free. They wanted me to get rich. But then they also, I had this other side of me which was fucking terrified of the downside of all that. Terrified of the unknown. Terrified of being broke. Terrified of who I would be if I didn't have money. So I never pursued that. And I've been exploring that this year a lot. All the nuances of that. What are the feelings and the thoughts and everything related to that. And you know what? At this point, we're in mid-July. On June 1st, I launched my first ever online offer, my first ever program. And it was easy. The idea came to me in a moment. The name, everything that it was going to be came to me in a moment. And I felt electrified. I'd never felt more excited by any idea about what I could do with my life than I did when that idea came to me. And then, a few hours later, I turned on my voice recorder because I felt like I needed to just brain dump all my ideas, because I was so excited. And then, instead of just this big brain dump of ideas, I ended up accidentally improvising the entire sales message for it. And if you've seen my Shift 30 launch thread, in the very first tweet, there's a video, and that video is that recording. I didn't plan to make that. It just flowed out of me. So I launched that at the beginning of June. Within 3.5 weeks, it was sold out. I didn't try to market it very hard. In fact, I fucked around with the marketing. I just kind of made jokes and made fun of other marketers. I've just had fun with it, and it's been easy. And this is something that I've been wanting to do for 10 plus years and been striving to do for so long, beating myself up about it for so long. But why I want to do this, but why won't I do it? Just beating myself up for years. And then, after finally getting curious about all that, getting curious about the fact that, look, I'm not putting myself out there. What's up with that? How come? Maybe there's a good reason. What are the reasons, Let's get curious about that and explore that. I did that earlier this year, and suddenly I had space, and suddenly there was room in me for this idea to show up, and it just poured out of me, So the things that I've always wanted to do are just happening now. And I know that that's kind of like Sounds kind of bullshit. But that's how it is. So that, I guess, brings me to the money maps. This effectively is what I have been doing for myself for the last 2 years, is building money maps about every area of my life in relation to money. So I have this here on the screen because I wanted to show you an example of what that can look like. I'm not ready to share the details so much about my experience. Hopefully in the future I will have more emotional security around that to share my own details. But for now, I personally have been very inspired by Visa on Twitter. Most of you probably will know who I'm talking about. And he is extremely courageous and open and vulnerable and talks about these things in public. And so just recently, he put out a video where he was exploring his feelings and his blocks and his own sense of his own limitations and frustrations around not wanting to be a sellout. That's something that I've experienced big time. Right? So he doesn't want to be a sellout. And in what way is that impacting what he's being able to accomplish creatively, right? Why doesn't he want to be a sellout? What are all the thoughts and the feelings that come up around being a sellout, right? What would it mean? How would people treat him and look at him? What would they say to him? Or what does he fear they would say to him, right? What does he want? If he doesn't want to be a sellout, what does he want? How does he want to be, right? So he talked about this in the video. And so I went in and took the transcript and I broke it all out. I didn't really add words. It's pretty much verbatim. I paraphrased a couple times just to make it fit and make a little more sense, since I was working with, just natural speech from him. But this is what we got from just his 20-something minute video about not wanting to be a sellout. So I'll zoom in more because I know the resolution on these videos isn't amazing, right? It's like, okay, I don't want to be a sellout. Part of me is afraid of being a sellout, right? So it's like, I don't want to be. Okay, what's the feeling? Fear. He's had times when people have accused him of that, right? Visa does have things to sell. He has books. He has a Patreon, right? But he doesn't tell people about it very often. Why? Part of him doesn't like to be seen asking for money. He's, in his words, overly anxious and afraid and flinches from the idea of selling anything and asking for money. He also knows that there are people that want to give him money. He knows that there are benefits to being able to receive that money from them, right? But knowing that hasn't allowed him to simply do it in full confidence and ease, right? He says, where is it? When I ask for money, I want it to be with my whole chest, like confidently, not with shame, not coyly, right? Not embarrassed, but proud, open, with my whole chest. That's something else that he said. right? But there's all these things that he feels that he's seen in the marketplace that happens to people when they put themselves out there with an offer asking for money. And those kind of get in the way a little bit about his ability to ask for money with his whole chest. You know, he recognizes, because he is very public, that when people put themselves out there, people can get really harsh. People can tear you down. And it discourages people from trying. And he also recognizes you don't have to take that personally, but he also knows that he does have a tendency to take it personally, right? And he knows a whole bunch of reasons about why that is, you know? So anyway, this is just a sort of look at this example of a money map, of Visa's relationship to money, specifically in relation to being a sellout and asking for money. You know, he has other videos about different aspects of money, and I could have done those, but I did this one. And if you want to see the whole thing, I did make a video. I recorded the whole process of making this money map, and I will put a link to that below. And there is also a link in the description to that video so that you can download this file and take a closer look for yourself if you're curious about that. You know, these things are movable, so like I said, it's not super organized right now, but things can be moved around, so it makes a lot more sense. But anyway, this is a money map. This is a money map of one of Visa's tangles around money, and he did give me permission to share that video, so just know that that's okay to watch. You're not like crossing any boundaries by doing that. And so, yeah, this is what a money map is, and this is what I've been doing for myself for the last 2 years. And again, it has been extremely, extremely helpful for me in getting clarity about who I am and what I want, and also just allowing me to begin more and more to be kind to myself. Kind to myself by being curious, right? It's kind of like an upward spiral. When you start being curious and you realize how nuanced it is, you also start realizing like, wow, I don't need to beat myself up about all this anymore. Like, there's so much going on. You know, there are reasons why I am living and being and acting and not doing the things that I want to do, right? And I can be kind to myself about it. You also begin to realize how unique each of us are, how unique you are. No one starts in the same place. You might look similar to someone else from the outside. You might have the same job, you might have the same income, you might be the same heritage, you might be the same age. You might even also, you know, have grown up in the same place and both you don't have kids. But when you start getting curious about what's actually going on in your relationship to money, you and that other person are completely different. Your relationship to money is yours, you know, and it becomes almost nonsensical to try to relate yourself, or not relate, but compare yourself to other people, and a lot of peace comes with that. I mean, I'm not completely free of it. I'm not going to say like things are perfect now, but my tendency to compare myself to other people has gone down so much, and it's so hard to even say how nice that is, because that was also one thing that I used to beat myself up with, right? It's like, why that other person is making so much money, or that person is living the life that they want, or whatever it is. Why can't I do that? I should be able to do that, right? Like, I'm just as smart, I'm just as capable. I don't even have, a kid and a family to support. Why can't I be as whatever as that other person? But you start getting curious, you start honing in on all the realities of your relationship to money, and you realize, you know what? I'm not them. They have all sorts of things going on. I have all sorts of things going on. It doesn't make any sense to compare us anymore. I'm just going to work with what I got. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to work on being kinder to myself and move forward in life along my own path, because that's the only path that I can move forward on, So that's some of the benefits that have come to me through doing this for as long as I've been doing it. And so I want to offer this to other people, because Visa's talking about it. I came to Twitter in large part because of Visa. I know that Visa in many ways speaks for a lot of us. There's a lot of comments on his video saying how much they relate to what he was talking about. I've seen it on Twitter, people talking about wanting to put themselves out there more, wanting to make things, wanting to, make offers, make a living off their creative work, whatever it might be. Or maybe not be so caught up in the pursuit of money because you realize that it's actually taking you away from spending your time doing and living the way that you want. Right? I've seen all of this on Twitter more and more over the last year. And so I want to offer this. Money maps. Basically, if this is interesting to you, what we can do is, reach out to me. There's probably going to be a button below this where you can get more details. And we'll link up and we'll have a call. I'm thinking 2 hours, to give ourselves a lot of time. You can't get through all this stuff in 30 minutes. So have a long-ish call. We'll have 2 hours. We don't have to go 2 hours if you don't want to, but we can go for 2 hours. I'll ask you different things about your relationship to money. And remember, this is not about specifics. It's not about the amounts. You don't have to tell me how much you make. You don't have to tell me, how much you have in the bank. This is not about that at all. If you notice, if you look at this closer, this map, there's nothing about actual amounts in this whole thing. And it doesn't matter. All of this is extremely powerful stuff, despite having nothing at all to do with actual amounts. Our relationship to money really doesn't have to do with the actual numbers. So, we'll hop on a call for 2 hours, or as long as you want to go within 2 hours, and we'll talk about this. I'll ask you about your relationship to money. What do you want? What don't you want? All the kinds of things that I've described so far. And I'll make this for you as we're talking. I'll plug it all in, and we'll draw up this map of your inner relationship to money so that you can have a bird's eye view of that territory. You can see with some distance finally that terrain, the territory of your relationship to money, so that you can actually begin to navigate it more clearly rather than just being overwhelmed. I mean, maybe you're not overwhelmed. I often was. It's confusing. There's a lot going on, right? There's a lot of people who tell you what you should do. There's a lot of things that are scary when it comes to money. Economics, personal finance stuff, family stuff. You know, it can be overwhelming and confusing. And if you don't have that ability to get distant from it, you might just feel totally stressed out. Maybe, you know, maybe so much so that you just kind of ignore it all. That's something that happened to me a lot, is, you know, you just kind of are so overwhelmed by the complexity of it, by the emotional intensity of some of this stuff, that you shut off. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to think about it. You don't, because you know that if you look at that, it's going to be painful. And so you just don't. So this is about getting clarity on your inner landscape, and maybe by talking about it, maybe by breaking it out and drawing it up like this, you'll solve some things just by way of talking about it. Maybe some of those knots will untangle themselves just by talking it through. That happens a lot. That happens on a lot of my walks, actually. So who knows? No promises. I can't tell. I don't know. It's your relationship to money, but it's possible that you could untangle some things just in talking it through. And if not, then at the end of the 2 hours, you walk away with this map of your relationship to money. And now you have a map. Now you can say, okay, well, this is what's going on in my money life. Where do I want to begin? Where do I want to go? And what are the obstacles in the way of that, right? And you can begin to maybe hone in on different things. Maybe one day you look at it and you're like, that is really triggering me right now, or whatever. Like, this seems really important. And I just clicked that randomly. But, you have this document of all the stuff going on in your money life. And you can be like, wow, I want to zoom into that, explore that more, maybe work with that, maybe show compassion to that, maybe, do some kind of whatever inner work processing so that that is not such a struggle anymore, so that that is not so heavy, right? So that's not so scary or painful or whatever anymore, right? You have a map of all the things that you could do that with. And the cool thing is, as you do that, you'll realize that you don't have to go and tackle every little thing in here. Because some of these things, are tied. I mean, everything is tied into everything else in some ways. Just because there's not connections between all these things doesn't mean they're not tied together. And maybe you hone in on one of these things and you begin to sort of melt away the tension and the triggering and the fear, or whatever it is, the shame that you have around this one thing. And you notice really that, oh wow, all these other things around it are just sort of sorting themselves out. And you didn't even try to make that happen, But because you focused on the one thing, and that started melting away, all these other things just started taking care of themselves. So you don't need to go and solve every little thing, every little money problem that you have, But we can make this money map, and you can gain a ton of clarity. You can untangle some knots. And then you have this document moving forward to refer to later to be like, okay, what do I want to work on? What are the obstacles in my way? How am I getting in my own way? How am I maybe self-sabotaging? Maybe you realize like, oh, this thing that I thought was true isn't actually true anymore. I can just not worry about that anymore. There's all sorts of things that you can realize when you just have this distance and can look at it all at once. So that's what it's about. We jump on a call for 2 hours. We build this thing together, and you can leave with this map of your inner relationship to money so that you can start navigating your way through it, navigating your path through life towards the things that you want with a better view of what's in your actual way. Books, ebooks, products, sometimes, they can give good advice, but they're all written for someone generic. None of them are written for you, so none of them can give you the actual next steps for you. There's always going to be some space between you and what the next step is for you and the next step provided by the book. And maybe that's where you want to get to. Maybe you just want to get to that piece of advice that's given to you by the book, right? But I've certainly experienced this where there's like something that you should do or that you want to do, and it seems like it should be really freaking easy, but you just can't get there somehow. For some reason, you're stuck. You can't get from here to there. This book is telling me if I just do that, and then that, and then that, life will be amazing. I'll solve all these problems, but you can't even get yourself to do that first thing. So the first step for you is not something that can be provided by anyone but you. And that's what making these money maps is about, is to help you get the clarity and spend the time, a little bit of focused time, figuring out what the actual next steps are for you when it comes to money and what you want in relationship to money. So if that interests you, there will be a link of some kind below. There will also be a link to the video where I make this map with the transcript of Visa's video. So you can check that out if you want to get a better sense of how this works. And if it's of interest to you, then reach out. Let me know if you want to do it. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer questions about it. And that's it, really. Either way, I wish you well. And should you want to do this, I look forward to working together and exploring this stuff. It really is a joy for me. So, take care. Have a good rest of your day.